For generations, the path to a good life seemed pretty straightforward. Go to school, get a good 9 to 5 job, and collect that steady salary. It's the foundation of financial security that we've all been taught to build our lives on. But what if that very foundation, the thing we count on, is actually designed to keep you trapped? Let's take a closer look. And that really is the central question we're digging into today, isn't it? Is that job of yours a genuine path to freedom and security, or is it something else entirely? A sophisticated system of confinement, designed to look like a safe harbor. Okay, so before we start tearing this whole thing apart, let's just take a second to understand why it's so appealing in the first place. The promise of security is incredibly powerful. It's the story most of us have been sold our entire lives. And this is it, right? This is the promise. You get a predictable income you can count on, you get benefits that protect you and your family, there's a ladder to climb, a clear path forward, and of course, there's the social status that comes with it. This is that blueprint for a responsible life. And let's be honest, in a pretty uncertain world, that sense of safety sounds really, really good. Okay, but here's where we flip the script. The source material we're looking at argues that this whole promise of security, it's actually the bait. It reframes all those benefits as the core components of what it calls the salary trap. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of this. What exactly is the salary trap? Well, according to this definition, your salary isn't some random number. It's carefully, almost perfectly engineered. It's designed to be just enough to keep you comfortable, pay the bills, handle your debt, but never ever enough for you to actually get truly ahead. It pretty much guarantees you're going to need that next paycheck, and that creates a powerful cycle of dependency. And this quote, wow, it just nails the whole idea. Think about that for a second. Your salary isn't what you're worth. It's the price it costs to keep you showing up every day, to keep you participating in the very system that's limiting your financial growth. It's a pretty provocative thought, and honestly, it's a little unsettling. All right, so if we're calling this thing a trap, how is it actually built? What does it look like? Well, the source material lays out this whole architecture of confinement, and it's built on a few key pillars that all work together. Let's dig into the first one. Okay, pillar number one is this huge gap between what you think you're making and what you can actually spend. You get that offer letter, you see that big, shiny number, your gross salary, and your brain just latches onto it. But the reality, your actual spending power, man, it's just a shadow of that figure after the system takes its slice. So how does that money just vanish? Well, here's the journey your paycheck takes before you even get a chance to think about building wealth. First, you earn the income. Bam! Taxes are gone right off the top. Then, inflation starts quietly eating away at the value of what's left. And finally, a huge chunk gets sent out to service your debt, your mortgage, car loans, student loans, you name it. And this visual really drives the point home. Just look at it. Look how tiny that slice for savings and investment actually is. Taxes, debt, and that hidden tax of inflation, they just devour this massive portion of your income, leaving you with what? Just a sliver to actually try and get ahead? And here's the last piece of the puzzle, and it's a big one. It's the psychological part. It's called lifestyle creep. You get a raise, you feel great, and what's the first thing you think? I deserve a bigger apartment, or I can finally get that new car. Your lifestyle just creeps right up to meet your new income. It makes sure that no matter how much more you make, that little slice for savings never really gets any bigger. You end up running faster and faster, but you're still on the exact same hamster wheel. So when you put all these pieces together, the gap in pay, all those deductions, and our own psychology, you start to see the final product, this self-perpetuating cycle of dependency that the source talks about. Okay, just let this number sink in for a minute. 55%. The source's analysis says that over half of the money you earn is gone before you can even touch it. It's already allocated to the government, to banks, and to that silent killer of purchasing power, inflation. This isn't about bad choices. This is just the mechanics of the trap. Okay, let's make this super real for a second. Take a look at this hypothetical budget. We're talking about a decent take-home pay here, $4,500 a month. But after you pay for the big stuff, housing, loans, just basic living expenses, look, that's a staggering 84% of their take-home pay already gone. What's left to actually build a different future? 16%. The margin for error, and honestly, the margin for escape, it's razor thin. So, after all this, what's the big takeaway? The point here isn't just to be negative. The source material is trying to give us a new blueprint,
a whole new way of looking at our financial reality, so we can maybe start to navigate it a little differently.
So let's just quickly recap the main arguments here. First off, the whole 9 to 5 system, it's built for stability, not for wealth. Those are two very different things. Second, those invisible forces like taxes and inflation, they are huge barriers to building any real wealth. Third, our own habits, especially that lifestyle creep, well, that's what keeps the lock on the trap. And maybe the most important point of all, just seeing this architecture, understanding the blueprint of the trap, that is the absolute first step toward changing your perspective.
And that brings us to the end of this breakdown. So we've laid out the blueprint of the trap, just as the source material describes it. The final question? Well, it's not for me to answer. It's for you. Now that you can see the architecture, what are you going to build differently?